Hello, everyone. Don Garman and Jackson Vickers here from Mirador Capital Partners. Probably a day to do a video, whether or not it was our normal March day, which it happens to be. Obviously, we are in a new world of daily tweets again and lots of uh, activity and misdirection and a daily laundry list of things to try to decipher and make sense of. So we wanted to come on with you this morning and share just a couple of thoughts about the environment and the setup. Obviously, this has been a big change and it's sort of come in fairly rapidly. Here we are tonight on the eve of the State of the Union address. So I'm sure we will all be tuned in to hear who would be the recipient of the president's critiques, and I'm sure he will say that it's all going to go perfectly from this point on, which seems to be his default. Um, what we can agree on objectively is that the tariffs that were speculated about and certainly talked about on the campaign trail and then conjectured to be bargaining tactics and not necessarily going designed to be implemented. I think once that has become um, part of the conversation, then I think the president feels like he has to deliver on the tariffs so that they are no longer viewed as bargaining tactics and that the threat of them is real. The trouble with the threat of them being real is the consequences of them also become more real. So, in my opinion, and Jackson, you're certainly, I would love to hear your perspective on kind of the current upheaval in the markets. It's pretty clear the market is trying to sort out who the winners and losers of this will be on a company level. But I don't think we would need to debate that the uncertainty that this has introduced has real consequences and real effects on companies that are doing business in the world. So, you have any thoughts on the state of the Trump storm?
Yeah, certainly an interesting time in markets. I would
Mm.
say it's you're correct, and it's fair to say that we have to kind of reprice the multiples of these companies on the basis of how are they going to be affected by sweeping tariffs across multiple different nations and regions. That's a hard equation to solve for, and I think you can see that in volatility and quite large swings, even in large cap companies, which we haven't necessarily seen. At least in the past couple of years. Maybe in 2020 or 2022, we would have seen that, but
Yeah.
very interesting and a hard equation to solve for. So lots of uncertainty in the markets, but certainly on the basis of tariffs, we're going to get continued volatility.
Yeah. And we get a persistent push to act and to, you know, take, and I can't tell if it's a function of the fact that we're all 5 years older than we were. We're not even at our 5 year anniversary of COVID. That's officially next week, I think a week from today. I think they count March 11th as the day when the pandemic was declared. Um, but now, those of us who have been watching these for a while or doing them and have been around for a while, we've been through multiple iterations of the change in narrative and the volatility. And as people are moving through the world trying to understand the new set of rules, and we don't really have a set of rules that any of us can point to. And therein lies the problem. So, what I do in these moments and what I think it helps me to do is to look underneath the hood of whatever the market is doing on that particular day and think about the companies in the actual portfolio that we own and think about how they are interacting with the world. And as I've said, and I never try to be glib when I make these comments, is I don't know where the prices of these companies will be as measured by their stock market prices, but I feel highly confident the businesses themselves will be bigger. And underneath the prices on the daily basis are the compounded earnings. I look back, as I even talked about in the last video, uh, more or less, give or take, Google does 100 billion a quarter in revenue and makes $25 billion of earnings. That's real. And so that's not a business that's necessarily impacted immediately by tariffs on Mexico or Canada or China. But it's not to say that they won't have effects on their business. But underneath the surface, there is a lot of good things that will continue to happen, and those people who manage those businesses will adapt supply chains, will find a way to do what they have done persistently over time, years and years and years and years, which is find a way to have those businesses become more profitable in the future than they have been in the past. So that at least gives me comfort. I don't want to. What do you look at in these types of moments? I mean, I know it's we're sort of looking at some of the same stuff, but
Yeah, I think your answer is a great answer. I think Google's a kind of a great uh, flagship company to look at. You can see a lot of those themes throughout all of our large holdings.
yeah,
Just a strong business model and a strong business that should give you comfort, even on days where markets fluctuate so dramatically. I think I always take a financial planning perspective when I go through times like this, and you say, okay, well, the Nasdaq is over 10% off of its recent highs, and go look into your financial plan, look at the strength of your personal cash flows, feel comfortable in the margin of error that we've built in the planning piece. I think this is another great reminder to everybody that we're happy to help with your planning, and
yeah.
maybe now is a great time to get started on that.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, I think going back to what we can control, I think is always great advice in these times of extraordinary volatility. It is true. We have gotten used to lower levels of general volatility, these 2% daily swings, these opening high and closing low, opening low, going positive in the middle of the day, only to close lower at the end. It has that great, unnervous, or the nervous feeling of the Charlie Brown football, being ripped away. And so and we've done this, and I've even said it on this video many, many times. It's sort of times like this where the constant emphasis on price checking and how, and the apps are so good at continually sending you notifications about what's happening. It doesn't serve most of our clients' real goals, which are their, execution of their life's dreams over multiple periods of times, and even during recessions and times of growth. I mean, the goals and stuff need to be so durable that they're able to push through these inevitable kinks in the hose, and we're certainly in one now. So I certainly would urge caution, and I always say this, which is, if it is translated into you not enjoying your life as much, we absolutely have ways that we can reduce risk on a individual basis. If it is no longer, if you're not in the mode of owning good companies and hanging in there with them through inevitable cycles, then you can own more bonds, you can own more money market fund, you can own more things that are not going to do anything but give you a reliable, steady return, even if it's a lower return than we've gotten used to in the past. So don't hesitate to reach out, as some of you have, to take some of those idiosyncratic steps. Jackson's point is a very good one, which is relooking at the financial plan and making sure that your current plans are being planned for or provided for. That's always a good place to start as well. And I think for today's video, we can end on the fact that tonight we are going to be doing a identity theft and fraud prevention video at 4 p.m., which will take us right into the State of the Union, I think, which is at 6 o'clock on the West Coast. It is the right time right now to be vigilant and educated about cyber threats in general. We do see incidences and sophistication on the rise. They are certainly targeting, and through AI and other phishing attempts, ways to get access to our clients' identities, which we all need to be vigilant in protecting. So, when in doubt, don't forget, and we'll talk about this later this afternoon, no one will ever reach out and ask you to click a link to confirm from our office, or, anything that, the inevitable click this to confirm this purchase, or something stuck at the post office, click here to unstick it. Those things are almost always fraudulent, but when in doubt, we hang up, we reboot, we call the numbers that we trust from the people that we do business with, and Schwab is one of the highest on that list. And rather than, believe that they're going to call us to alert us, unless, of course, it's somebody from our office. And the beauty is we know our clients very well, so it doesn't take us long to figure out what's really happening. So anyway, I encourage you all to tune into that. The rest of this, the daily chop and the volatility that we're experiencing, I wouldn't be so bold as to expect that that's going to dissipate anytime soon. I think we're in this now for a period of time until we can actually start to work some of these back into earnings. Once we get to earnings, we can know what prices to pay, and then we can kind of have that back in a relatively more of a calm state. But I don't necessarily believe that's going to start tomorrow. But I'm sure we'll have something to talk about tomorrow after the State of the Union has completed. Jackson, any final words?
No. Hopefully all goes well this evening, and definitely tune into the fraud and cybersecurity. It's very topical and very important. So that'll be a good webinar today.
Indeed. And the final point is, if you are nervous, if you're concerned, please do reach out. And that's what we're here for at the end of the day. We obviously are trying to work through the portfolios to get them as best positioned as they can be. But having a conversation about those things can be helpful. And if you're concerned about any of this or how it relates to your plan, please get in touch, and we're happy to help you work through it. So I would maybe expect we might tune in one time before before the April video, depending on how things go, but hopefully not. And if everything gets kind of relatively smooth, we won't. But if it's another couple of rough weeks, maybe we'll check in halfway through the month. But until then, thank you all for everything, and we will check in again shortly. All right, bye-bye.